Hello, and welcome to episode 269 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet in my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko, and today is April 7th, 2025. And today I'm wearing one of my favorite loop scarves that I have that was knit by my sister. And the yarns, there are two different yarns in the loop, and one of them is black soft merino, that's by Wolldackel. It's a pure merino yarn with 100 meters to 50 grams. And this is just the kind of yarn that I would have at home in my stash because I kept using it and I used it a lot back when I was working at Wolldackel's. And the other yarn is Noro yarn. I don't really know which Noro yarn it was, but my sister bought 3 different colorways when she was, I think, in Japan at some point, or was it in America? I don't know. But she picked it up when she was traveling and she gave one colorway to me. She kept one colorway to herself and gave a third colorway to a friend of ours. And I could have knit whatever I wanted with it, but I didn't have an idea. And one day my sister was visiting me and she forgot to bring some knitting. And she said, "Oh, have you got anything that I could knit?" And then we looked at my stash and then we came upon this yarn and she said, "Do you want me to knit something for you?" And I said, "Why not?" And she was into 2-color brioche at that time. So I got the black yarn out because we thought that was a good combination. And then what she does is just she casts on stitches and starts knitting without planning a lot. And so she cast on stitches and she started knitting. And then the 2-color brioche itself was a bit too boring. And then she decided to throw in some cables. And that's basically what she did. She just knit a scarf with the colorful yarn and the black yarn. And then she decided to do some cables, and because of the brioche, it's the cables look the same on both sides. And then when she had used up most of the yarn and we decided it's more than long enough for a loop scarf, she gave it back to me and I sewed the beginning and the end together. And I used the black yarn, so there's a black line on this side, but on this side it's basically, well, it's a bit blacker than the rest, but I think I used something like kitchen stitch to sew the 2 ends together. It's a very flexible seam and it is visible, but I don't mind at all to have this black line. If I don't want it to be seen, I can put it at the back of my neck, and but I don't even mind that to be visible. And it's a beautiful, very warm, very comfortable loop scarf that I love. And I love wearing it with my neon pullovers or cardigans. So I have a crochet pullover with neon yarn that I love wearing this with, and some other pieces, but also this cardigan. Also, there's no pattern for this. My sister just made it up as she went. So just knit brioche and put in some cables, that's all. But the cardigan I'm wearing is called Party Cardi by Stephanie Lotman, also known as Tellybean Knits. And I bought the pattern because I really loved the idea. And basically with this cardigan, what you do is you have one main color and then you knit a cardigan. So you cast on stitches up here and then it's a raglan shaping, very simple cardigan. You can knit as long as you want. You finish the sleeves. And then once the cardigan is done, you pick up stitches up the front at the neckline and the other front. And then you knit these beautiful fronts with your contrasting colors and with short row shaping. So because of the short row shaping and because of whatever you do down here, you get this funny shape of your fronts. And then up here, you just have a very few rows. And the original cardigan, I think, has either half sleeves or 3/4 sleeves and no contrast color. But I wanted, because I used the merino sock yarn by Hansa Farm in the black, and my accent colors are hand-dyed yarn by Wolldackel, who don't dye anymore, unfortunately. But because this is a wool cardigan, I wanted long sleeves. And then I rather spontaneously decided to put all the contrast colors into the cuff at the end of my sleeves. And I keep saying it probably took me as long to weave in the 10 ends that you have when you use 5 colors. That probably took longer than just knitting those few stitches. But I'm really happy I did that. I love this little accent colors down here. But the main thing of that cardigan is really these fronts. And I love wearing this cardigan. From the back, it looks like just a simple black cardigan with a little bit of color down here and up there. But the fronts are really what makes this cardigan pop and look interesting. And I could imagine knitting the same pattern again with different colors for the fronts and maybe different main color. But I really enjoyed knitting this, and I love wearing it. Yeah, and if I wear this loop with something only black or one color, I will usually wear the colorful side to the outside. But if I already have all the neon colors from this cardigan, then I like to wear this with more of the black showing. But I know that the colors that sort of peep through the black, they go with the neon colors in the cardigan. So I think it's a really nice combination. Yeah, so much to what I'm wearing. Then on to finished objects. I have 2 finished objects. One of them is also a new cast on, and I have to admit I have 4 new cast ons. I know that in the last video I already had a lot of new cast ons because I was planning projects to knit on during my holidays, during my vacation. But yeah, for several reasons there were quite a few new projects during the last 3 weeks, but I'll explain about those a bit later. I'll start with finished object number 1, and that's the comfortable soft socks that we were knitting as a knit along in, I think it was February that I released the tutorial video on how to knit socks with 2 strands of yarn held double. And if you want to knit the seat stitch pattern, yeah, so it's not difficult at all. I used Hansa Farm alpaca sock yarn. That's the main color. That's the one with the stripes. And then I used a yellow mohair silk yarn to hold it double with the alpaca yarn. So these are really very, very soft and really warm socks now. Yeah, I'm very happy that I finished those. And yeah, I think that's about all I can say about these socks. Yeah, they're done, they're soft, they're wonderful, and look forward to wearing them. Now, the other pair of socks that I finished during the last 3 weeks is also a new cast on, because these are the socks that we knit during the Sock Madness in round 2. So I knew when I went on holiday that the round 2 was going to start during my holiday. So I packed yarn so that I could use the yarn for whatever sock would be chosen. So when the Sock Madness starts, we already have a list of all the yarn that we're going to need for the different patterns. So we know that one sock will use like 3 different colors and one sock will just use 1 color. And I think this was the first time that on the list of yarns that we need, it said self-striping yarn preferred. So usually Sock Madness socks, they will always say use a solid color or maybe just slightly different colors, but usually they don't want a self-striping yarn or self-patterning yarn because it obscures the pattern that you knit into the socks. So I was quite intrigued that this year there would be a sock where we were supposed to use self-striping yarn. So I packed a ball of self-striping yarn. I packed a ball of contrast color, and with the Opal Stole that I'm knitting, I also had some black yarn with me that I could use as a contrast color in the sock if I needed it. If for example, it would have been a sock with 3 colors, the black would have been my 3rd color. But the sock that was chosen for round 2 is called Chattahoochee. I don't really know what it means. they gave a link for a video that sort of explained it, but I haven't looked at that yet. And that was the sock for the self-striping yarn. And it was supposed to have, you could use a contrast color, but you could also use the same yarn in place of the contrast color. So this is what the beginning of the sock looks like. And this is why she recommended to use a self-striping yarn, because the pattern itself is only really visible if you use a self-striping yarn, so that you can see those forms. If you use a solid color, it doesn't really show. And then the contrast color could have been used for the sole of the sock, but you can also use the same color because it looks completely different. This is in garter stitch, this is in stockinette stitch, this is just knit straight, and this is knit with increases and decreases to give you this kind of pattern. So I brought a single color blue with me as a contrast color, but I didn't really like it when I looked at it when I was knitting the sock. And also I was intrigued by the fact that this is stockinette and straight, and this is the garter stitch. And I really wanted to see what this same yarn looked like with these two contrasting things happening. So this is also the sock where they recommend, or where they said you needed a circular needle, a long circular needle instead of double pointed needles. So that was also really good, because I actually knit most of those two socks in a car, because we were traveling quite a bit during our holiday. And in the car, I prefer to knit with a circular needle and not with double pointed needles. And the pattern is very genius, is very unusual, but it's not that complicated. Once you get into the rhythm of things, I didn't have to look at the pattern all the time. So I could knit a few rows without looking at the pattern until I hit a certain spot, and then I checked the pattern quickly, and then I could keep knitting. So I actually managed to knit the socks during my holiday in time to win me a spot for round 3. And as you can see, this is a left sock and a right sock. The zigzags go into different directions, and I just, you know me, I just knit the yarn as it comes. I did not plan anything, but for the zigzaggy part, except for being a left and a right sock, the yarn, the colors came out almost the same. So that was really funny. And I actually knit both the zigzaggy parts first, and then I knit the sole of one sock and then the sole of the other socks. And there the colors are a bit different, as you can see. But again, I didn't pay attention. I just knit the yarn as it came, and it's not too much difference. So if I had paid attention, maybe I probably couldn't have made it the same, because I had very little yarn left over. When I finished the second sock, I think I had something like 3 or 4 grams left over. So not really enough yarn to change which color I wanted to knit. Yeah, so these are the Chattahoochee socks by Shuyi Wu. It's a fantastic pattern. They are way too big for me with the size that we had to knit. I'm really intrigued, and I would really like to knit that pattern for myself. I think the changes that I'd have to make aren't too difficult. Maybe one day if I get bored. I've never been bored in my life, so. But I'd really love to knit these for myself in some other colors. So these are the 2 finished objects that I have today. Then on to works in progress. And I will go straight into the next new cast on, and that's because it's another Sock Madness sock. This time, when round 2 finished, I think the moment they sent the notice on Ravelry that the round 2 was finished, and I think the next moment they sent the message for round 3, you're going to need this and that. And what we needed was one color, preferably a solid color, not too much going on in the yarn. And then once they announce what yarn we need, it's between now and 48 hours that the pattern will be sent out. And I think they send out the patterns straight away. So I have since learned that they probably did that so that the round 3 would be over before Easter. But I was really surprised. I think I've never experienced a round starting that quickly after the other round was over. And because it happened on Thursday evening for me, I was at home, and so I went through my private yarn stash to find the color that I could use for these socks, and I found 2 balls of Drops Fable print that I bought a long time ago with no plans whatsoever, and I thought it's not a single color, but it's not very busy, so I hoped that they would work. And because this time we didn't have to knit a right and a left sock, but both socks are the same, so I decided to knit them at the same time. I don't do that very often, but every now and then I feel like doing it, and this was one of those times. And this is what the beginning of the sock looked like. Oh, the pattern is called Itamaraty, and it's by Anna Zurevleva. I think it's Zurevleva. I know that I fight with this name every time because she's designed for the Sock Madness before. I really like her designs, and this is the pattern that's on the front of the sock, and this is the pattern on the back. So the back is rather quiet, and then there's the heel flap with some slip stitches, and then the heel turn is fairly simple, and then we have the gusset decreases here, but we also have some decreases here, and to make up for those decreases we have increases on the sole of the foot. So that's really interesting and rather unusual. And I knit, as I said, I knit the beginning of the sock on a circular needle 2 at a time, and I was really happy about doing that. It meant that every part of the instruction I only had to read once because I was doing it on both socks at the same time. And then I knit both the heel flaps, both the heel turns, and then I realized with these decreases, not the gusset ones, but with these ones, they were running from the back of the sock towards the front of the sock. And with 2 at a time on a circular needle, what you can't do is you can't really at this point, you can't borrow stitches from one half of the sock to the other half of the sock. So what I did is I put both socks on double pointed needles for, I think I did part of it on the circular needle, and then when this was sort of going from one side to the other, I put both socks on double pointed needles, and I knit, I think I knit this bit on double pointed needles, and once I was finished with the increases and decreases, I put them back on the circular needle, and now I have to knit a certain number of rounds after I finish the increases and decreases before I can start the toe. And I decided to do this last bit again 2 at a time, so that once I was done, I'd be done with both socks. And yeah, this is what they look like. If I was to knit the toe now, I think they would fit me. But because I have to add like another 20 rounds, they are going to be too big for me. And I already have a recipient in mind who will probably like these socks. And yeah, I enjoy knitting them. I love the pattern. It's so beautiful. It's out of the Japanese Knitting Stitch Bible. And yeah, really enjoyed that. But I'm finished with the pattern now, and I'm only knitting and purling stitches. And I am very confident that this is going to be a finished project next week. We'll see if I can finish them today or tomorrow. And so far, there are still enough spots on my team that have not been filled yet. So I'm fairly confident if I finish them today or tomorrow that I should be able to get a spot for round 4. So that's the only sock I'm showing at the moment. And then the next project is another new cast on. And the reason I had to cast on that is it's the next mystery gnome by Sarah Shearer. And it's going to be my April gnome. So the pattern is called Professor Fungi. I bought the pattern last month when it was released. Do you say that? And we were supposed to pick 4 colors. And I just realized today that I had a mix-up in my colors. But the colors 1 and 2 are supposed to be the main colors. And this is my color 1. And I hadn't realized that color 2 is supposed to be a bit darker. So I should have used this for color 1 and this color 2, but it doesn't matter. So my color 2 is a bit lighter than color 1. By the way, this is a leftover yarn from Sock Madness socks from the first year I took part in the Sock Madness 5 years ago. I think this was round 1, but I'm not too sure. Anyway, I had this left over and I wanted some sort of natural colors because Professor Fungi is a gnome who loves mushrooms. So I wanted some mushroomy colors. So these are my colors 1 and 2. Then color 3 is the hand, nose, and beard color. So I use this white hand-dyed yarn with some green speckles in there. And then the color number 4 is the main color for the hat. So I chose this green, which sort of goes with the green in the white. And it's a sparkly yarn, and I thought it'd be fun to have a gnome with a sparkly hat. So these are the 4 colors that I chose. And we already got 2 clues, but I'm still working on clue 1. And clue 1 has loads of little mystery bits, and I haven't knit them all. So if you don't want to see them, I'm going to show them now. So mystery part 1 was this one in this color. And I'm pretty sure I know what this is going to be. Then the pieces 2 and 3 are these 2, and they are quite obvious what they are. And then mystery bit number 4 is this. And here you use 2 strands held double. I've no idea what this is going to be, but it's fun. And I'm now not showing anything anymore. So now I have to finish the mystery bits from clue 1. And then clue 2, I haven't really looked at, but I guess that's when we start the main part of the gnome. But yeah, that's... I will probably go straight to that project once I finish the Sock Madness socks. Then the next project is one that was new last time, and it's one of my holiday projects that I specifically cast on to knit during my holiday. And I did knit on these black wrist warmers with the wave pattern, but I'm still at wrist warmer number 1. I'm using 2.0 needles. The next pair I will go back to the 2.5. Maybe I'll try the 2.25 needle for a change. We'll see. But this is all I managed to knit during my holiday. So it's black needles and black yarn and very fine yarn. It's the lace, alpaca lace yarn by Hansa Farm. But I managed to knit this much. So this is like 1 full pattern repeat. It's like twice the chart. But for me, this is 1 full pattern repeat. This is the 2nd full repeat. And I'm now starting the 3rd one. And I was wondering whether I should after 2.5, but I think I'll try and push through and knit all 3 pattern repeats because it's probably nicer, I think. Yeah, so this is what it looks like. It does fit even with the smaller needles, but yeah, maybe I think I'll want the next pair a bit looser, but yeah. At first I'll have to finish this one and then knit the 2nd one. I will probably change to my pink needles so that I can see the stitches a little better. And also they are a bit pointier, the needles, the pink needles. So I will probably change that and see how that works. And then we'll see how much I have next week. And then there's another new cast on. That's going to be the last new cast on. Yeah, so it's the 2 Sock Madness socks that were new cast ons. Then Professor Fungi because the knit along started. And this project is a new cast on because this is that was one of the first projects that I decided to knit on holiday. And because it was supposed to be my holiday project, I wanted to cast it on during the holiday. So I cast it on at the airport before we left. And I'm using this yarn, which is a sock yarn by Online, and it's a sock yarn with a silk. Part of it is silk yarn. And this is some yarn that I was given as a present several years ago. And because there's silk in there, I could have knit some very soft socks. But I thought the colors are really nice as well, and I wanted it to be a bit more visible. And because it's so next to skin soft, I decided to knit a loop scarf, another one, and I decided to knit the Seide Wolkig, which means cloudy in German, by Martina Behm. I knit that pattern before out of some Angora yarn, Angora lace yarn, and this time I'm using a sock weight yarn with some silk. And I know that the pattern Wolkig is a free pattern, and it's very simple. The whole pattern is one line, and you repeat this one line of pattern throughout the whole thing. So I sat down at the airport, I cast on 200 stitches, and I started knitting the cowl. And I'm using a circular needle by Lantern Moon that I was given as a present from a friend. And I'm using stitch markers that a friend of mine made me. And yeah, so this is, and I was using a project bag by another friend. So this is like a friend's project as well as a holiday project. And I got quite a bit of knitting done because of the ruching effect, because of all the increases and decreases. It is a fairly slow knit, which makes it perfect for holidays because you just pack one ball of yarn and you have lots and lots and lots of knitting to do. And yeah, really happy with the way this looks and the way it comes out. And I can just now keep knitting on it, remembering my holidays. And at some point I'll have a nice loop scarf. So now on to projects that you already know. The next project is another one of those that was new last time. And this is the pattern, the Opal Stole by Deb Milstein that she designed, and I am test knitting for her. So I think before the holidays I'd done the black border, and I was probably in to the first contrast color, I'm not quite sure. I took 6 contrast colors with me, and I actually knit them all during the holiday because it was really fun knitting this. The lace patterns are 2 different lace patterns, one for the black and one for the contrast colors. They're fairly simple and easy to do and easy to memorize. And so I couldn't continue knitting once I'd finished those 6 colors and the 6 rows of black. And I've now picked up the next 6 colors that I'm going to do. And I thought I'll just quickly show them to you. So I started off with fairly neutral colors, but I already have a bit of yellowy colors in those balls of yarn. And there's going to be a really yellow one, and then again some more colorful ones. And there's going to be more red coming up. So these are the 6, these are 2 mini balls, and the other 4 are leftover yarns. And so these are the ones that, these are the 6 colors that I am going to add after these. And there will be 26 colors all in all. And once I'm done with the reds, I'm going to go into more, I think, pink colors, and then some darker colors. And then the rest will all be blue and turquoise colors. So really enjoying this and having a lot of fun with this test knit. And now there's a project that I took with me on holiday that most of you will know if you've watched my podcast for a longer time, because this is a really old project that, and it's the A Bloom Mystery Shawl by Susanna IC. And I started the shawl when the pattern first came out, and it was still a mystery. But at some point I stopped knitting. And I'm using this lace yarn, also dyed by Wolldackel. It was their luxury lace yarn. I don't remember the content off the top of my head, but it's linked on the Ravelry page. And it's this very beautiful pale blue. And I'm sure the mystery is such a long time ago, so it's not a mystery anymore. I can just show it to you. It started off with clue 1, where you just kept repeating the same pattern for quite some time. And I finished the clue 1 before I put it aside, and I'd started clue 2, and I've now finished clue 2 during my holiday. So if you look at it closely, you can see that down here, it's the same kind of pattern that keeps repeating, and then here it changes. And whereas there was just one bead per pattern repeat up until here, I have more beads now here, and I think it's the same pattern twice in clue 2. And I've started with clue 3, I think only 2 rounds, but it basically repeats the same pattern from clue 2. So I'll have more of that pattern, and then clue 4 will have the border. So this is a asymmetrical triangular shawl, and if I hold it like this, I think it's you can see the way this works. So I'm increasing all the time. This is, let me see, this is the straight edge. So this is the edge that stays the same, and down here is the edge where I increase stitches all the time. And yeah, so I'm really happy that I picked that up again, and I hope I will continue knitting on that now without putting it aside, because this will be a perfect shawl to wear in summer when it's really warm, but maybe just a little cold in the evenings, or I don't know, the slight wind comes up or something, and I'm really looking forward to wearing this. So that's that. Then the next project is one that I did not take with me on holiday, but as soon as I was back home, I had to pick it up again. So I actually have continued since the last video, and this is the Advent Calendar 20-gram mini pullover I'm knitting. And I think last time, I don't really remember, I finished the neckline, and then I did 10 rounds in the same color that I had, 10 rows that I knit here, and then I added the next color, and I've almost finished knitting this color, so this is all I have left. I will knit this, knit all of this, and once that's gone, I will add the next color that I've planned, and it's basically like this and this color. There'll be 2 20-gram balls on this side, and when I'm finished with the second one, I then did 10 grams in that color. I think at that point I will start counting rows and see how many rows I'll have to knit with my third color for this shoulder, and then I can decide when the front and back are finished, and I'll start knitting the second sleeve. Yeah, so really enjoy this very colorful, very crazy pullover. And then the next pullover is again another project that was a new project in my last episode, and that's the Multitalent by Nicolor that I am knitting out of a opal color with bamboo in it. So I cast this on before I went on holiday, and then I continued knitting there. And this is again one of her pullovers that start in the neck, and then at a certain point you cast on stitches for the front, and then you start knitting in the round, and it's like a round yoke pullover. And I've put a long cable in to show you how far I got. I tried it on the other day, and I decided to add another 4 rounds, and then I'll try it on again, and maybe I can then put the sleeve stitches on hold, but it seemed a bit too small yet. So yeah, I'll just keep repeating, knit 4 rounds, try it on until I think it's big enough, and then I'll put the sleeve stitches on hold and continue knitting the front and back. And then once I finish the first ball of yarn, I will then add the neckline, and then do the sleeves, and then use the rest of the yarn for the front and back. So as I said, my sister's knitting the same pattern in a different colorway, and she has already finished her first ball of yarn, and she has just finished the neckline, and I think she's now knitting on the sleeves. So she's quicker than me at the moment. So that's that. And that brings me to the knit-along socks that I'm currently knitting. This is the pattern that was officially the March pattern. It's the Estonian spiral pattern. And I almost finished the first sock during the holiday, and then I finish it off after I came back. And this is what the sock looks like. By the way, this sock blocker was a present from a friend who decorated and colored it herself. And I think it goes perfectly with this sock, which is a lot of fun. And what I also like is, I know that some people who knit this pattern used it for the whole sock. And some people only did it on top of the sock, which will make it wonky unless you do some maneuvers that I'm not quite sure how to do. But I know that some people knit just the whole foot in the pattern, and it's no problem that it's spiraling. But I wanted to just use the pattern for the leg of the sock and then knit a simple foot. And I really like the contrast of these broken up stripes up here and then the proper stripes down here. And especially with the busy yarn like this, the difference is quite, is very striking. So I really like, you look at this part and then you look at this part, how different that looks and how sort of simple the stripes look here and how broken up they are here. I just really enjoy it. And as I usually do, once I finish the first sock, I cast on the second sock. And haven't knit too much yet, but this is what I have. And as you can see, the stripes come out completely different, which I knew they would when I started knitting the toe, and I ended up using the same color that I did at the beginning. So I knew this was going to be completely offset. And I'm very happy with that. Yeah. So that's everything I knit during the last 3 weeks. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!